Hey everybody, I'm back with another update of what's happening here in southern Utah, and today I'm here at the Washington County Water Conservancy District where we get to talk about water. This is one of the most talked about topics as we continue to grow here in southern Utah. I know there's a lot of opinions and misinformation out there. So today I get to interview Adam Snow, who is one of the county commissioners who is working on this daily, and he's going to fill us in on what their goals are short-term, medium-term, long-term, and kind of just give us an idea of how the water system works here. Look forward to sharing this with you guys, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm here with Adam Snow, Washington County Commissioner. He's going to tell us a little bit more about the water and where we're currently at and where we're headed. So first off, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time. So first off, give us a little bit of your story, your background of how you came to be County Commissioner and your history with water.
Yeah, so my family settled Washington County. Snow Canyon is named after my third great grandfather, so I grew up here, my family's always had homes and farms here, and I worked all summer long on the farm as a kid and with my grandpa, which was great. And then after graduate school, my wife and I came back and worked in investments, and then the last 6 years I've actually been working for Congress as Congressman Stewart's director. And then last summer, when Dean Cox passed away, unfortunately, there was the open commissioner seat. And I had worked on so many of the issues, like this one that we're talking about today. I'd worked on so many issues for so long. I was the guy that the county called when they needed help. And so it was a fairly natural transition. And I said, I'll be honest, I didn't really want to be a county commissioner. That was never on my dream job list. But I knew that I had some skills and some experience and some connections that would help Washington County a lot. So I said, okay, for a little while, I'll put those connections and experience to use right here and help. Economic development and water are my two biggest issues that I focus on.
So I know you're working on this every day.
Every day.
I know there's a lot of people working on this every day.
Yes, lots.
Even though a lot of people might think that we're just, there's a lot of opinions out there, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that no one's working on it and that we're just gangbusters on growth and nobody cares about the water, right?
It's our best kept secret. We really like to not tell people that we're working on this, I guess. Yeah.
And so I really want to just answer questions on short-term goals that the county and cities have, as well as some long-term goals and what we're doing because yes, St. George is growing, Washington County is growing, and the cat's out of the bag. And if we stop the growth, it's not going to help anything with pricing and some of the other issues that we're facing, right? So regarding water, first off, tell us a little bit about the water system itself. And then from there, we can get into some of the solutions.
So we view water as really one community. And we can push water, culinary drinking water, from Kayenta and Ivins all the way to Tokerville and back and flow wherever we need water. The system honestly is very fragile because we have 190,000 plus residents and over 6 million visitors reliant on one single drainage, which is the Virgin River drainage system. Which, if we're really being honest with ourselves, that is a river only in the loosest sense of the term river, right? For most people, that's a creek. But so even our springs and everything, it's all coming into that one drainage, which makes us very, very vulnerable to drought or any kind of earthquake that might disrupt flow or something like that. And so we're looking for redundancy, we're looking for storage, but really the story of the Western United States is the story about water resources and adaptation and manipulation of those resources so that we can survive and thrive in a place that's pretty arid, pretty dry.
Yeah. And so talk about the difference between, because I know a lot of people ask, well, why we keep building? Why do we keep having golf courses? We're wasting all this water. Talk about the difference between the different, primary, secondary reuse.
Sure. Well, just using those terms, you're much more educated than most people on water already. So we do have a lot of growth. Obviously, we've been, the fastest growing community in the nation for a long time now. And the cat is out of the bag. People love it here. They want to come here. And for those who say, oh, I wish it could just be that small community again. I wish nobody else would come. which is kind of the idea of, hey, now that I'm here, let's close the door behind me.
Right.
Which, could we have closed it right before you got here? You know, I mean, that doesn't that doesn't really work, right?
Right.
And as a private property rights guy, I think that people should be able to use their land within reason on how they want. And so we do still have enough water. They're still growing. And if somebody has, 10 acres that they're going to put into some new homes, we do still have water for them right now. The primary water you just talked about is for culinary water. That's the first water that we're going to be able to use, drink, bathe, cook with, things like that. Secondary water, really all water in Washington County is not created equally, okay? So primary water we can use in our bodies, in our homes, in our businesses. Secondary water is water that we haven't used yet, but we really couldn't. You couldn't drink it without significant treating of it. It's just really got a ton of dissolved minerals and other stuff in the water. And so it's not good to drink, but we could put it on a lawn, we can put it on a golf course, we can put it on a park. Reuse water is you did use it, and now we're capturing it, treating it, and reusing it again. And that's really where most of our focus is in the short term, is on the reuse water, because it's water that we're adding into the system right now. But as far as,
because currently most of it's being washed away.
Yeah, right now we capture that sewer water, we treat it, and it goes into the Virgin and down to Lake Mead. It's a little more complex than that, but that's the easiest way to think about it. And so we would rather keep that. That's our water. We'd rather keep that here in Utah, keep that here in Washington County, and put it to beneficial use again and again, and as many times as we can use that drop of water. That is a sacred resource for us, and so we want to make sure that we're using it as best we possibly can.
So that leads us into these short-term, long-term solutions. Talk about the short-term, what you guys are doing to keep us being able to grow.
So this is a multifaceted approach, okay? But I'll try and simplify it in this way. One is that we need to conserve more, okay? And that's not, some people say, well, you want me to conserve so somebody else can build their home. And that's not the case. Conservation comes in a few different ways. One is that the state actually owns all the water, and then we have rights to use water, right? That's the way the law works. And so the state has said, hey, McRae, at your house, you're using 0.89 acre feet of water per year. And that's how so we've got this fixed pie of water, and we can divide it up into slices that are all 0.89 acre feet, which is called an equivalent residential connection, basically, right?
Okay.
But you're not actually using that much water. We found that you're really using closer to 0.73 acre feet or 0.75 acre feet of water. It kind of depends on the lot size, but I'm speaking in generalities here.
Yeah.
And so we can take that same fixed pie of water, and now we can divide it up into more pieces. And that's really short term. That's where a lot of the growth is coming from, to say, yeah, but state, we're not running out of water. Let me just clarify. When we say running out of water, we don't mean that there won't be water in your pipes anymore. We're talking new development, new growth, right? And so we can now say, hey, state, there's more pieces of this pie here because they're a little bit smaller piece, because that's what people are actually eating, right? They're not eating the bigger piece.
Right.
They're leaving too much of it on the plate. So the state says, that's fine. You know what? We agree with you. You are using, and we can track that very, very precisely. You're using less water. So we'll allow some additional connection. So that gives us a little more growth down the road, because there's more pieces in that pie. And then we say, well, what if we actually got you to use even less water? Now, not you, because you already have a home, but if you're going to come build, you've got 10 acres and you're going to build some new homes, 60% of the water in Washington County is used outside the home. So if we can get you to use less water outside, same amount inside is fine, but less water outside on more native, drought-resistant, low water use landscaping, then we've got more pieces of the pie still, right? Because now you're not using 0.75 acre feet. We're trying to get you to 0.53 acre feet. And many people are totally fine with that. The builders are on board with that. And so it allows us to divide up what's left of that pie into more and more slices. And so we've got conservation measures. Many of the cities and the county are passing ordinances restricting, massive, just sprawling lawns on all new development. On commercial lawns, if the only time you step on a lawn is to mow it, that is non-functional turf,
For
right?
sure. Absolutely.
If it's turf that you're going to go play soccer on, great. Play football, throw a baseball on, fine. But if all you do is have this little figure 8 of grass in front of your business that nobody ever sits on, put some beautiful plants there. We don't want to become a heat island. We want landscaping, we want vegetation, but does it have to be high use turf?
Yeah.
Let's do something else with it. And so when we do all of those things, we can reduce the amount of water being used outside, keep the amount of water inside, and that's how we add years to our available growth for businesses, for homes, for our quality of life here.
Gotcha. So then from there, that is what creates more time, right? The whole thing, the whole idea is to create more time with what we currently have. So then long term, what does that lead to?
So long term and kind of medium, let's go to medium term next, right? So medium term, that's the short term, that's all just using the same amount of water we have right now, but just using it a little more conservatively, right? So the next step is the medium term is to reuse any of that water that we can put back into the system again. And so we're all of our parks, there's not one golf course. If people drive by and they see the sprinklers going at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they say, oh, you're wasting water. Not really, because all of that is secondary or reuse water. You could not drink it if you wanted to, right? The farms by many times are the same way. And so they say, well, what we're trying to do now in the medium term is to say, let's capture all of that water and reuse it again, and we can treat it. So we take sewage water, we treat it so it's clean again, and you can treat it enough, honestly, to be able to drink again if you really wanted to. But we have other places we can put that, and so we'll store it in various reservoirs. We've got 3 coming on in the next year that are being built. One's a fairly large one in Tokerville, Graveyard Wash in Santa Clara, and Dry Wash up near Ivans, and those are a little bit smaller. But it gives us a place to put the water. We can treat it and reuse it today, but we have no place to store it.
Okay.
And so we've got to be able to store it. And that's, again, the story of the West is building reservoirs. It's building places to keep water so that when it doesn't rain and snow, we still have water, right? And so we're storing the reuse water in these various reservoirs that we're starting to build now. And then the fourth one, which is much, much larger, would be Warner Valley, which is over by Sand Hollow, kind of close to that direction, by the new airport. And so we'll put a ton of water out there, and we can actually mix it with some of the Virgin River water that south of Potempe Hot Springs. It's not very usable either. That's definitely secondary water. We can dilute some of that and put it there, and then in the summer months when we need more irrigation, we can draw down from that reuse water that otherwise would be flowing to Lake Mead.
Okay, yeah.
And not have to use our culinary water.
So those reservoirs are being built to store water that otherwise would have just left our county, right? That's cool. Well, that's great news. So there's 3 in the works right now, and then Warner Valley.
Warner Valley is in the works as well. We're working. That's a little heavier process.
Cool.
But we're going through that as well.
Good stuff. And then from there, long term, anything to wrap up?
Yeah. So long term, we will be building that same reuse system. Now you got to have pipes to get it places, right? So when I said we can push culinary water across the entire county, we can do the same thing with reuse water, which is a huge benefit to us. But you got to be able to build that infrastructure, right? And so many of our new developments, especially at the south end of St. George and Washington City, many of those are already dry piped. Your home, if you live down there, may have 2 pipes. Just one of them doesn't have any water in it yet, because we need the larger, kind of the arteries of the system to get to you. So we're building those. That's not a cheap process to go through. So we're working on federal funding, state funding, the impact fees for new development, so we can, on who bears that cost. But eventually we'll be able to flow reuse and culinary water in separate systems across the county. And so super long term, that gets us probably through the next 12 to 15 years. But beyond that, we will have used every drop as conservatively as we possibly can. And we're still reliant on one drainage system, right? And we're the only community that I'm pretty positive in the entire nation of this size that's reliant on one system.
Really? Wow.
And so there's just no redundancy. So the only other way that we can grow beyond that is we need an additional source of water. And that's where we call the Lake Powell pipeline coming in. And that's outside water from a different source. And on that, real quick, McRae, I think that's the worst named project in the world. I've said that to many, many people.
You did tell me that the other day.
Because it's not water, it does come through Lake Powell, but that's not the point of diversion. The point of diversion is Flaming Gorge.
Okay.
So this is Utah's water. It comes out of Flaming Gorge, and the easiest way to think about it is we release 1,000 acre-feet of water from Flaming Gorge, and we could pipe it from Flaming Gorge all the way to St. George. But that's an expensive, difficult process to do. And so the easiest way is to just let it flow naturally down the river. Helps the habitat and the fish and stuff along the way, right? So it flows down the river into the Colorado, into Lake Powell, and then we just pipe it over to here from Lake Powell. But we're not dropping another straw into an already empty glass. And that's what most people see. Obviously, Lake Powell is way low this year, right?
Yeah.
But the most consistent source of water in the entire western United States, if you look over thousands of years of geologic history, is the Colorado River. And so basically we're filling up the glass a little bit, and then we account for evaporation, and then we take it back out the same amount that we filled it up. And that's where the Lake Powell pipeline comes in. That water will also go to Warner Valley or future reservoirs as well. And it just helps us have redundancy in our system so that when you turn on the faucet, water comes out.
Gotcha. Very cool. It's a lot of info.
It is, and don't, by no means am I the only one working on it. The other commissioners, we're here at the Water Conservancy District. That is all they do. There are really wonderful, bright people. The state, the Department of Natural Resources, Dr. Brian Steed, Culinary Water. There's tons of us that work very collaboratively. There's other states that are against us and some for us, and it is a behemoth. And so if anybody thinks it's going to be fixed in a week, I'm sorry to say it will not be fixed that quickly. But there's a lot of us working on it, and it's important because everything else relies on this.
Right, for sure.
Growth,
Absolutely.
jobs, our economy, and you're in real estate. If we think prices are high right now, stop any growth. Demand is still high, supply is low. The only way for the price equilibrium to go is straight up. We will make Park City and Malibu look like the slums compared to what we are at right now.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's the message I try to get across to people, and that's why I really wanted to have this conversation, because it is a huge part of the conversation.
It is.
Well, thanks again. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Look forward to seeing where we go from here.
Anytime.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap, guys. As everyone knows, water is the most important part of our equation here in southern Utah. And in order for us to keep growing and for our economy to keep thriving, we need that water. And so it's nice to know there's a lot of people working on it. And I know that as we continue to grow, we'll continue to figure this thing out. For more info on what's happening in southern Utah, you can call me or text me 435-668-7293, or find me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Thanks, guys.